apologize if this one's a little bit longer. I don't think you want to miss this one. Whoever is engineering these and tuning these, you guys are brilliant and you know your shit. So I'd like to point out that the Penon did a outstanding job of the implementation of the tuning switches. What do you think the configuration is? I would have to said, would have guessed it's all the dynamic driver. This is the most outstanding, organic, non-dark Penon to date. Set it. Vent it. Listen to it. We're gonna fall in love. I would have loved to see the dual 6s from the fan in here. And 2 ESTs from the 10. This thing, of course, then would have been, $800, but Penon. Hello again. This is a Tone Deaf Monk. Thank you for joining me on my channel. Another yellow box review. Penon Turbo. An interesting one, but for the fact that I would have never bought this one. They ended up sending it to me regardless. I guess they're starting to know my taste, so they don't send me anything that they know I'm not going to like. And I typically try not to buy anything that I don't like. So it works kind of two ways. Now, this one was provided by Penon for me, so thank you for that. And you should also say thank you for that, because without that sending to me, I wouldn't have bought this all BA set and sharing it with you. I don't think you want to miss this one. It's not cheap. It's $499, but in the grand scheme of things, in multi-kilobuck IMs, that's not bad. And for what you get, let's get into it. Now, I never do unboxings, but sometimes, occasionally, I do mention the cable. I do mention the accessories, and I will so do in this case. Right? So, let's talk firstly and foremost. Let's get into the accessories. What's in the box? I do like the simple fact that they're simplistic, right? It's not a whole bunch of... they don't feel the need that they need to do a great unboxing in order to give you a great experience. I think the philosophy and the thinking behind that is, honestly, let's put it into the IM and make sure it sounds good. And I damn well appreciate that. Now, I will mention a couple things, though. The cable that comes with it. They know me. They know I only use 4.4, so that's the only thing they send me. And that's the only ones I've ever bought, version-wise. 3.5, no, I'm not running this off my phone, no. I typically don't run it off a dongle, because all my dongles have 4x4. Anyway, the cables, they're getting better. Penon is getting better. The cables, you notice where it terminates into the actual IM is gorgeous. It's nice and small, but my analness when it comes to left and right are perfectly happy here because, well, one's blue, which would be left, and the other side is red, which is perfect. And they not only have like a little blue or red ring around it, as well as the IM itself. This is the Penon Turbo. There's something I'm really going to mention here a lot. There it is. That has that, see that giant blue vent? Yeah. So, let's do fitment. Man, I am all over the place on this review. But bear with me, please. I promise it'll be worth your time. There is what it looks like in my ear. The shells are quite small, actually. So you can see it's a pearl green on top. It's gorgeous, better than it looks in pictures. Inside you can see 6 balanced armatures. 2 big ass ones with 1 tube, 2 other ones, and 2 other ones. And a little crossover network. It's really well put together, simple and small. No complaints here. Again, the supplied cable is a silver gold one. Mates up perfectly sonically wise. Whether you believe in cables or not, I could care less. But I do a little bit, and it works perfectly. So 0 complaints there. Let's talk about the case, because I never mention cases unless they're worth a damn. Well done. Small. Pocket here, store stuff. I can shove it in my pocket. And even makes more sense that I can actually put the IAMs into the case with a little dongle and a USB cable as well. So well done, Penon. That's why I'm getting mentioned, because it's usable and it makes sense. So thank you. Moving on. They give you a little tool. Understand this now. Those vents that I showed you, when I shove these things in my pockets, they actually get quite dirty, and you need the little cleaning brush to clean it. So again, well thought of. On the other end of that tool is a little sharper end that lets you adjust these 4 tuning switches. And we'll also get into that as well. So, it's called turbo for a reason. Just go into some driver specs just briefly, and because it is important on this, in the fact that the low frequencies are done by 2 SONION AcuPass balanced armatures. If I'm going to put a link to my written review, and in that written review, you can go to Canucks Audioholics Anonymous on Hi-Fi Guides. That's where you'll find our group's review videos. And you'll see the link there to the SONION AcuPass YouTube video. So if you want to learn a little bit more, check that out. 2 Knowles balanced armatures for the mids, and a twist is 2 SONION balanced armatures for the highs. Now, normally Penon uses the Knowles for the highs and the SONIONs for the mids. So this is an interesting twist when it comes to whoever is engineering these and tuning these. You guys are brilliant, and you know your shit. Thank you. You really do, because it really, there's a whole thought process, obviously, that goes on. And I'm not sure how long it takes Penon to come up with the design and the testing and the listening, but I can honestly tell you right from the top that they all know what they're talking about. Even when they're talking about this cable to go along with this, it's take it for what it is. And if you do, and you can hear a difference, they actually aren't shooting shit out of their ass. It actually does make a little bit of sense. Let's go back here. Those tuning switches, they do something. Of course. No, not of course. Because I've had tons of IAMs that have tuning switches that didn't do anything. These do. Three-way crossovers, sensitivity 103 dB, impedance of 16 ohms. Not, I wouldn't drive these off a phone. I wouldn't drive these off a 3.5 off a phone. I don't think it will work. I just don't think you'll get as much out of it as you should. That's my honest advice. Okay, so final configuration. What did I use to share my impressions? Well, my Hibby R6 Pro 2, which side-by-side comparisons to my desktop stack with the Geshelli Labs J2 and the Topping A90D, they're very close. That's huge praise for the Hibby as well. So that's how my impressions happened on these bad boys. On these ones here, I tried the Dunu SNS tips, sound and stage. I heard that's what they're actually labeled for. But I chose a very inexpensive TRI Clarion tip. Why? Well, because it had a great fit in my ear. It went quite deep, which is great, and it has this massive wide bore, right? So there's no filters, no nothing on the end of this IM, and so you're getting sound directly into your ears. There's 3 tubes, one for each set of those pairs of balanced armatures. Let's go to this next section, which I will label what I liked, right? The included accessories, again, I thought were worth mentioning. The case, the cable, the tips, the cleaning brush. It was all really well thought out. So thank you, Penon. And I like the fact that the termination is flush on the IM itself, right? It's not sticking out. It's not a QDC. It's quite quality. I somehow have difficulty putting that cable in. So let's talk some of the points that I thought, what I liked about this IM. Sibilant-free highs. Great for treble-sensitive people. Still has tons of extension for air and details. It's tunable. And I'll get more into that. Switch dependent from a super V-shaped to a balanced. It has the Penon unmistakable mids, the vocals. So if you're just tuning into my first review and you're looking at you won't know what that means. For me, it's a lush, organic vocals, and Penon does it extremely well, and they do it pretty much on every IM that they've ever come out with. It's kind of like a signature sound, and people who like it love it, and I do as well. The vocals are also smoother than the 10th anniversary, closer to my ideal. I never thought I'd say this on a BA set. Fantastic bottom end. It goes low, and it sounds closer to a dynamic driver than a balanced armature. Actually, if I didn't know this configuration and somebody just said, here, listen to these, what do you think? And what do you think the configuration is? I would have I would have guessed it's all the dynamic driver, right? And that really had to play on that, where I mentioned earlier in those weird specs, where those Sonion AcuPass bass BAs, and in this case the Knowles mids, giving it some upper mid energy, and then the Sonion highs. So I find Sonion smoother than Knowles, and I typically like Knowles balanced armatures in the highs to give it an extra sparkle and sizzle. where I don't find that this needs it. It does a really good job, but it's super smooth up top, and not really rolled off. So vocals, both male and female on the turbo, silky smooth, honest, organic, lush in a musical way. Again, you could copy and paste that line from every Penon review, because it's true. Vocals on the turbo are closer to the Penon house sound. I think if there's an epitome of what a Penon house sound vocal would be, definitely the turbo hits that as well. There is no BA timbre in this. There's no sibilance, there's no harshness, even when you push them hard. You can listen to the turbos for days on end, fatigue free. Back to that BA bass again. It is not your typical BA bass. Typical BA bass is dry. It hits hard, but it lacks decay. So it lacks note weight. It lacks, in most cases, a realism that you either love it or hate it. But this isn't your typical. Tuning switches work and allow to you to honestly tailor to your specific sound signature, and I think that's was another big what I liked. Now, I can't stress this point enough. Zero pressure buildup, even 8-hour listening session. You see that little vent? Big ass vent, actually. Well, no, you suck on whatever then. I look like an idiot waving this around. Oh, well, look at that. You can see right through that thing. Anyway, has a big ass vent. Why is that important? Well, that's important certainly to me, and it might be to you, and you just never knew. So, what I thought it needed improvement, again, super subjective. Not your typical BA bass. Mids or highs. Love it or hate it. Same point as what I liked. What I don't like is if you were looking for that, you won't find it here. So tuning switches, a thing I don't like typically. For those who hate switches, I get you, man. I honestly do. I feel your pain. Try graphing this damn thing. Holy smack, man. It took me hours. And to then put it into Squig, which you need to be like a programmer, which I'm not. One thing I don't like, definitely, is that they put the... Okay, what is this one? This is the turbo. So Penon is the left. Okay? Can you see the switches there? So 1, 2, 3... turbo. Now the right side, turbo. Now it goes turbo 1, 2, 3. If they would have put them both exactly the same, would have been way easier at the beginning. Even after, I still have to physically look at the buttons. At least they're in groups where 1, 2, 3, and then the turbo button is separate. So not terrible, but just a little point of bone of contention is there. The turbo boost button, honestly, and setting was not for me. It washed away the mid bass that I prefer. And as I said, it doesn't really have that BA timbre for the mid bass already, and that kind of made it worse. So I listened to it, done a bunch of songs, and then I went, nope, that's not for me. Micro nuances and details on this IM could be better. Not a huge knock, as I just compared really to a 64 audio U12T. Really top of the heap in BAs. Hard to beat. So coming off listening to those and then listening to these and then also doing a comparison to the 10th, I'm being quite hard on it, but I'm telling you as I heard it, right? Stage depth, again, was just average. It was actually the same as the Penon 10th. Which, again, if you watch or read my review, I don't mind that kind of staging. I don't want something that's going to keep pulling my attention away. And I find IEMs that do that, I don't enjoy as much because then I'm listening to the gear instead of just listening to the music, if that makes sense. The mid bass for me, I wish it actually had more of that BA mid bass snap. That would get closer to my ideal taste. If I thought the turbo, if I wanted some improvements on this, what I would love to see is, again, more of that mid bass snap. I would have loved to see the dual sixes from the fan in here, and 2 ESTs from the 10th. This thing, of course, then would have been, $800, but Penon, just saying. Okay, that's it for that. Now, let's go back. Like I said, that zero pressure buildup, why that's massively important and why I wouldn't have bought this set. If I would have known then what I know now, I probably would have kept those IMs. But as it turns out, life is constantly teaching us. And if you keep your ears open, you'll listen and learn. And therefore, I did. And so my impressions on that one probably would have been different too if I would have known this little trick. But that being said, it's not my fault they didn't invent the damn thing. It's their fault. It's a design flaw. Because for every other BA set I've ever owned, again, the 64 Audio U12T that I was on loan, that is a phenomenal IM. It also has a pressure relief system. And not too many BA sets that I see, or maybe people are learning about this and it's getting more awareness. Even if it wasn't a BA set, the Hitta stuff still don't vent their shells, and you still get pressure buildup. And it mucks. This is what it does to me, or it could possibly to you. If you've ever put a pair of IEMs in and you're talking or chewing or something, and you notice the sound change. A lot of times that's a pressure buildup thing that's releasing and building up again. And what it does for me is it kills the bottom end. It smothers the bass with the pressure buildup. I don't know if the bass just can't get to my inner ear. I don't know the physics and the fundamentals of what that causes. It would be an interesting study, but I wouldn't be interested in doing it. Second thing it does is because it kills the bass, it amplifies the highs. And I find then sets are brighter than they should be in a different emphasis. Now, I got to thank Paul Wasabi for making a comment to me one day and said, hey, have you ever tried foam ear tips? Because I heard that mitigates that effect. And he was so right. It does. But I typically don't listen to anything with foam ear tips unless it's too bright. And even then, I'll throw a filter on it instead. So foam ear tips for me mutes the highs in a very not natural way. So I don't like foam ear tips. But foam ear tips do seem to be able to alleviate the pressure buildup to an extent. So IEMs like the High Senior T2 and my NF Audio NF2U, I can actually get a listen to it, but again, it's muting the highs And for like the high senior T2, where it's not really has a lot of high frequency energy already, it mutes it in a way that it doesn't make that set really enjoyable to me, because I'm looking for more high frequency energy. Where I find the NF2U has more high frequency energy and it's a lot more balanced out. So anyway, so if you that's that pressure buildup of shells. So I'm really glad Penon well engineered these. It's a lot of thought that went into this, obviously, to alleviate that, and it really works. So thumbs up to Penon. Now let's get into more subjective track impressions. And again, I will say track impressions are done this time solely off the Hibby R2 Pro 4.4 cable. I also tried another cable. That one was sent to me as well. This one was the Penon, the ISN S4 cable. I haven't really heard of this one, but it's super soft. So again, silver SPC cable, and they were very close to me sound wise. I could go on a whole tangent about cables, but I'll talk a little bit. So apologize if this one's a little bit longer. Let's go into tuning switches, because that kind of played a big part in the next part, which is what I heard. So tuning switches, there are 4 of them. I hate tuning switches typically. Most of them are gimmicks. They don't work. On the turbo, the 4 switches all really just control bass to different levels. I'll pull up a graph here and you'll see out of the 14, I'll show you 4. One with the turbo boost on, the separate switch, and then there's 3 switches. And the first switch would be, I'll say it's 1, and then 0, 0, which will be 1 will be on, 0, 0 will be off. So in this particular case, and that's the way that all my impressions happened. So you can see that too. And so it has turbo boost off and switch 1 on and then off for the other 2. Now, those 3 switches, if you switch button 1 on, it has the second most amount of bass without the turbo, and makes it as closer to more of a V, and the closest to the Penon 10th, which I'll do a comparison later. If you switch the second switch on, and then it knocks it down by another 5 dB in the bottom end. And then lastly, the last switch, if you turn that on, it's now your Penon gain is well below your bass gain, and it completely changes the overall tonality. If you knock down the bass, you are going to get more mids and highs that you are going to perceive. That's just how it works. So they did a great job. There is a multitude, I'd say 4 primarily, that you'll probably use to listen to get your impressions if you pick up this set. You can turn this turbo into a monster. Like plus 15 dB bass gain in total. It's huge over Penon, so it's pretty big. You can also tune it to a well-balanced or even a neutral bright IM. That's how versatile those tuning switches are. So it's well implemented. It's a feature like, I'll kind of compare it to the most excellent fat frequency Grand Maestro. And that's high praise, because it really shows you that you can shape your specific sound signature to your personal tastes. And I think that's great. So I'd like to point out that the Penon did an outstanding job of the implementation of the tuning switches. it's well done. Turbo boost set to on. What does that do? Well, it does exactly what it sounds like it does. But I found at higher volumes, it kind of bagged out the IM. It sounded like it was struggling with that amount of boost. With bassy tracks, I should say. And it wasn't that enjoyable, but on non-bassy tracks, it was fabulous. It's kind of like the 7 hertz legato, right? It sounded way better with out bassy music than it did with bassy music because it was a bassy IM. Overall, I think that turbo boost will appeal to some people, and it really depends on the genre of music you're listening to and your personal taste. But for my listening, that setting was always turned off for my listening impressions. 0, 0, 0, those are those 3 other switches. Really changed more of the shape of everything else. Let's go to 0, 0, 1. So the most amount of treble, the least amount of bass. Great setting for classical. Female vocals, the most airy. It still has bass. It's not neutered. 0, 1, 0. Actually, I like the setting a lot too. Great with jazz, great with vocals. Tuned slightly on the brighter side again, but like all settings, never sibilant, sharp, or harsh ever. Ever. 1, 0, 0. This was my happy medium. I really like the overall tuning of 0, 1, 0, and 1, 0, 0 the most out of the whole tuning selection. But at 1, 0, 0, overall gave me the added bass that I crave. And I really enjoy. While making male vocals perfect, as well as female vocals, and that's hard. Absolutely spot on. Very organic in nature. This is where I left it for the settings for my overall impressions. Below in the next tracks that I'm going to go over, and my overall impressions. So my overall impressions of the Penon Turbo is turbo button off, 1, 0, 0. Okay? Again, here's a graph. It'll show you that curve. That's what I really loved. I will say this whole video is going to be named, what am I going to name it? It was pretty cool. One Smooth Operator, right? Sade, Smooth Operator. Listen to it. We're going to fall in love. This is, and I'll put this little clip at the beginning again, like my signature monk move. This is the most outstanding, organic, non-dark Penon to date. Said it. Bent it. Some standout tracks. Let us begin. Number 1, Bubbles by Yoshi Horikawa. What crazy track. It's got like balls and stuff bouncing around. Very spastic stage. You can hear the balls drop and you can hear them bounce. The sense of height. And different senses of height, of how high the balls are dropping, is very cool. You can hear the weight of the different balls in their tonality, and the bass is great. Number 2, Jetlag Corporation by Ace Donna. Don't correct me if I screw these up. You'll figure it out yourself. Goes low. I thought it was very well balanced. The treble keeps up nicely. The settings on 0, 1, 0 and the difference between 0, 1, 0, 0 was that at 1, 0, 0, the droning bass goes lower. If you put the turbo button on, it actually has secondary resonances that is truly outstanding. Again, it was one of those tracks that was a standout track. The third one, if you want to test bass, Poem of Chinese Drum by Hawkman Kim. Okay, over 10 minutes of drumming, of different drums. It's a truly outstanding track. You want to listen to, if whatever you're listening to has proper bass, listen to this track. This is what started to surprise me. But I did a whole bunch of listening before I did, personal track. But as I'm listening, if I thought something would stand out, here's where I wrote it down. The turbo actually has a nice decay and smack in the bass track at all settings, which really surprised me. But I found the 100 adds the nicest tonality. And the 001, the setting with the least amount of bass, brings out the most nuances, but still gives you great quality bass. So regardless of the fact, it was just a matter of how much of that quality bass do you want? And again, the bass head in me went, more bass. But I calmed down and I didn't hit the turbo button. I think the turbo button, I think 100 is actually the turbo button. I think that last little button on the end it's nitrous. That's what it is. Yeah, the nitrous button. I'm renaming it. Number 4, 99 Luftballons by Nina, is an interesting one. As I mentioned earlier in the review, I was talking about a little bit about cables. I just happened to throw the Penon vocal cable in. It's one of those very odd cables that if you if you don't think you can hear a difference in cables, buy one of those and try it. And if that doesn't make you a believer, then so be it. But I didn't like that cable with this IM. It was too much of a good thing is not a good thing, and that's exactly what it was. It did something funky to it, not a good pairing at all. I really liked the stock cable, honestly. And that was where I found the best vocals. Again, 100 settings, Supremo for female vocals. Number 5, Lux Eterna by Metallica from off their new album. Now, this was an interesting one. The speed of the BA bass with the weight of a DD, what the heck, might make no BA believers like me into loving what a SONION AcuPass BA set can do to the bottom end. Truly, truly nice. Speed, texture, thump, right? Number 6, Marvin Gaye, Charlie Puth, Meghan Trainor. I listened to this one because I want to listen to both male and female vocals at the same time. Sometimes in the song they have a duet, sometimes they're singing separately, and kind of tricky. Sometimes in some IEMs the female vocals get washed out, the male vocals sound too thin, depends on the tuning. Smooth across the board, really liked it. Just a lot of fun toe tapping experience. Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed. Lou Reed's guitar, so it's amazing. And his vocals were bang on. But here you could easily pick up, which I thought was the standout part, the female singers come across the back moving, they move forward into the mix. The guitar itself, simply amazing. And the resonance, the secondary resonance, the strumming, you could hear. It was on the tone was primo. Number 8, Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks. On this track, she has legendary vocals. Come on. I have to say how impressed overall I am on the turbo to reproduce female vocals. Simply superb, bang on, organic, natural, lush. Those are 3 words of what I would describe the Penon vocals. and you'll probably hear it over and over in this review. Okay. Unfinished Sympathy by Massive Attack. Sweet drops. They actually go low. Vocals bang on perfect, like the 10th did, but I dare say the turbo goes lower at 100. And I think that has to do with the 10th having more bid bass. So you perceive more sub bass with the turbo. We're talking BAs here over 2 7mm dynamic drivers. Or 6. Can't remember. One of those two. Number 10, Freaks by a band, one of my favorite bands, Live. Hard to find this band because every time you punch up Live, it comes up with live music instead of the band Live. But there you go. Just, I told you so. Would I say the Penon Turbo plays rock, metal? Yeah. Yeah, I would. I would definitely use the turbo for rock. Very, very much so. Nice kicks, great vocals, goes loud, screams, not in a bad way, but sounds great doing it. Number 11, Cashmere by Marcin. Bass. I wrote big wow. Not dynamic drivers? Are you sure? It has texture, it has decay, but still has instrumental brilliance and smooth detail highs. Like, wow. That's a pretty good impression. Number 12, A Case of You by Jody Mitchell. Female vocals done superbly. Again, so organic. The guitar and the details are very nicely, easy to pick out, very well replayed. Just lovely. It was a great replay. Let's go to something harder with strings, okay? J.S. Bach cello, suite number 1 in G major. G major is hard, by the way. I used that other track by Joe Satriani where he's trying to do an ascending G major. Wow. It's really tough and hard to pick out if you don't have a well-resolving IM. The turbo, the strings are magical. The depth of the cello's notes and the way the turbo gives space to the notes is wonderful. I'm not talking 64 audio U12T, U18T here, but for $500, mind blown. Number 14, Act Right by the Crystal Meth. I was blown away by the bass, firstly, and how smooth the turbo does EDM. Go loud? Hell yes. As you can tell, I'm playing tracks. I listen to a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, you get impressions from lots of genres. Shape of My Heart by Sting. Listening for accuracy of male vocals. Again, here's where I found 100 was my favorite. And I actually, one of these ones I was comparing with the 10th and I was listening to same song on both. I prefer the vocals over on the turbo. Beaving Prelude by Job Beaving. Again, sorry, buddy, if I screwed that up. An amazing recording, though. First of all, how many tracks can you hear the piano chair creaking and narrow that down to how many IAMs can reproduce that sound with pinpoint accuracy and realistic nature? I'll answer that for you. Not too many. And if they can do it, how much are they? Right? Number 17, Save Me by, again, one of my favorite bands, the Tea Party. One of the absolute best replays I have ever heard in a non-live venue performance was done by the turbo. Dramatic pause right there. Number 18, Medellin by Madonna. Vocals from Madonna it's a very well recorded album again. So smooth, and the stage was huge. Done in a very fun way. bass was nicely balanced overall. The whole performance was balanced. It's a good track to test that. Can the highs keep up with the mids? Can the mids keep up with the bass? Can the bass keep up with the highs? Right? Yeah. Some jazz. I love the turbo with jazz the most. Deed I Do by Ella Fitzgerald. Instruments sound crisp. Trumpets, guitar, piano, and vocals lush and full. Right? Yeah. Another one, last one. Feeling of Jazz, Pancho Sanchez. My absolute favorite jazz artist. Pancho's signature jazz is his drums that he sells, because they're awesome. They have a unique sound. And if you know that sound and you know how this song sounds, you can then translate that to how did this IEM do those things. And again, I wrote very natural, organic. I love jazz and the turbo. Trumpets, drums, piano all sound smooth and correct. That really sums up individual track impressions, overall sound impressions. The turbo for me is the best sounding IEM so far I've heard from Penon, period. So not only that, it's the Penon Turbo is one I find I am reaching for more than any other in my collection. This bad boy is going on tour with the rest of our group, along with the 10th for them. So you don't have to take my word for it in reviews. Watch Silicone Sounds. Read Krusty's reviews. Again, you can go to Canuck Audioholics on Hi-Fi Guides and read others' impressions of the same IEM. None of us have skin in the game monetarily. We're bringing you our honest reviews. So don't call us shills. These IEMs, like this one, if I didn't buy it and was provided by Penon, it gets shared in our group, and you watch and read different reviewers. That's awesome for you, right? Because what I might hear is different from what Bennett or Kevin might hear, or Eric, right? So, but you then have more people's honest impressions about whether you should pick this up and spend $500 other than just mine. Okay? So I encourage you to go there as well. I was mentally not prepared to like this one. Actually, I'm quite biased towards dynamic drivers. My absolute favorite set is one I don't talk about as much as I should, because you can't buy it. And it's the Thor Molinar Mark II. Single, weird, dynamic. It has its own special magic, but that is my reference. And I base my bass off of that. That's my reference. The U12T I had in my ears spoiled me as well. It's a great IEM. From all the BA sets I've had in the past that I've listened to, except for the U12T, I haven't really liked enough where I would dish out some money. I've never really liked the bass of BAs because I found them lacking texture. I found they were too fast. And I found that they didn't have the proper note weight and decay that dynamic drivers give you. The U12T changed that a bit, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that they do technology-wise that's patented for that exact reason. But the turbo has really just changed my perception to appreciate a well-tuned BA set. And experience quality bass that I didn't think I would find in a BA set. So for me, never to buy a BA set, two things I look for now. Make sure the shell is vented. And those SONION AcuPass BAs are going to be pretty cool. The mids and the vocals are so spot on the turbo. It's perfectly balanced in the mix. It's not forward and it's not recessed. The timbre is also so well done. Both male, female vocals coming across with the correct weight and the timbre that is not dry or thin. It's not overly weighted and it's not boomy. It's just very smooth and organic. That is the absolute best way. I love the mids and the vocals of the Penon Turbo. The highs and the upper mids are quite extended and are bang on perfect for me. Gives tons of details, lots of excitement, providing great instrument placement in the stage and sounding very natural doing it. So stage overall is averagely wide, has a good sense of depth, and has an excellent height. Certainly not the best I've had the pleasure of hearing, but again, having the 64 audios in my ears and lots of high-end stuff, kilobuck stuff, the turbo can hold its own. It really can. It does a fabulous job. $499. I'm going to say that again because price does play an important factor, right? If I went to a $4,000 IM and they were working on the nuances of a better stage, then yeah, you'd probably get that. But you also might need more drivers or something else to do it. Well, some might expect or want more micro and macro details from an all BA set because that's what I normally in my brain associated what balanced armatures do best. I was just as pleased as it did everything else well. So I can easily forgive the turbo for not having the absolute best micro macro details because that bottom end is pretty phenomenal. And again, personally, I really enjoyed the tuning as it is on the turbo, right? I honestly wouldn't change anything, and I'm not complaining, especially for this price point. It's really hard to fault. I think you would need more drivers or EST drivers to get to the next level. And honestly, if I were go looking for that, I would look for a differently tuned maybe IM or something similar, but a little bit more on the macro micro details. I'd reach for the 10th. I'm fortunate and blessed to have both sets because that's when it was at great strengths. Overall, I can say what I like most about the Penon Turbo. Well, if I could tune it to my preferred sound and signature, and that's what I liked best about it, I could dial it in. So the switches really worked for me. It's not a gimmick. I liked how smooth and natural the vocals were on the Turbo, fatigue-free. I can listen to this set all day, all night, days on end. Just get lost in the music. The stage is set to give you a perfectly great experience and keeps you engaged. Bass was more than enough to make my inner bass head happy. It really was. Without washing out my beloved female vocals and instrument details. So I was very pleased and a bit shocked on how well the Turbo did that. To conclude the Turbo, it's an expertly tuned IM. It's a true gem, and I think this point is very solid. In a sea of neutral or neutral bright BA sets that try to go for a flatter frequency response, think a Fool Performer 8, right? Those sets for me are boring to listen to. They lack dynamics, they lack weight, they lack overall excitement. It doesn't turn my crank. Those sets just don't make me engaged in the music, nor do they get me lost in the playback of them. The Turbo does it for me, and anytime I find myself just wanting to listen to music and not the gear attached to my head, that's a full win in my books, right? As a comparison, as I happen to own the 10th anniversary as well, I thought the two would make a good comparison because they're both at the same price. So how do those two compete? Firstly, the comparison against the two 100, both tuned, the overall tuning with 100 on and the Penon 10th is very similarly tuned. Similarly, very similarly tuned. What I just said. Here's the graph of both. The graph actually represents a good deal of what I was hearing. And I pulled it up later, like just when I was doing my written review. The 10th has faster bass and more mid bass because it has dynamic drivers, I believe. Bass overall, I would say the turbo sounds like it actually goes lower because of the less mid bass that it has over the 10th. The upper mids, though, on the turbo give a more natural weight to male vocals and female vocals while still being smoother and more natural because the 10th projects vocals a little bit forward compared to the two, where the turbo is a more neutral presentation on the vocals, not as forward in the stage. Stage was fundamentally the same on both IMs. The 10th has the edge with micro macro details. It certainly does. That's the ESTs that work. Come on, they're there for a reason. More air and extension in the upper end, twinkles and sparkles, for sure. So that's how I thought the two compared. I love both of these IMs for different reasons. I was thinking about that. And what would I brought the 10th along camping too. I never actually wanted to listen to it because I was just so engaged and having such a great time with the turbo. Okay. Would I buy one or the other if I had $500? Well, do your research. Which one's right for you? Thank you for watching another one of my long ass videos. I appreciate you guys. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone because this is a weird journey, is that I have now like 500 of you groupies following my videos. So thank you for that. It's kind of a weird feeling that I'm actually influencing people. And that's not really what I wanted or set out to do. I just wanted to be informative. And I'm really happy about all the comments and feedback that I've been given. And if I've helped you along in your journey, that really lightens my heart up. So, and I appreciate it. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. This is a Tone Deaf Monk, and I'm out for now. But if you're still watching, American Spirits is doing a sort of a collaboration, which he's not making any money on. I'm going to do a shout out to that. Also, you'll be able to buy that because he found a sponsor to help him give this thing to the market. There's a cool story. Again, go to Hi-Fi Guides to learn about that. But it's going to be using the same SONION BA drivers for the bass that the turbo uses. Only that'll be tuned a lot more neutral. So I'm looking forward to that too, and I'm going to buy that set because it's vented. Another one coming up. This is the SIMGOT EM6L, the Phoenix. A little over $100. It's going to be a banger. Till next time, I'm out.